Millennium Force is an intimate giga coaster located at Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio, and is one of the most famous coasters in the entire world. It opened up back in 2000 as the world's first giga coaster, and I got my first rides on this back in 2018. I got 7 rides on this awesome coaster, so today I'll be reviewing it, giving all my thoughts on it. So I'll be starting off with the layout, then I'll be going through 7 categories, including intensity, airtime, pacing, drop, smoothness, theming, and setting. I did change some of my categories and got rid of some that seemed unnecessary. And my final score will be out of 10 instead of out of 100, so I'm making some changes to my coaster reviews. But with those things out of the way, here's my review on Millennium Force. So for the layout, you're going to start off with your cable lift hill. This is actually the first ever elevator cable lift. It's a 45-degree lift hill, and it goes up to about 15 miles per hour, so it's very quiet and fast, and it gives a great view. On the left you can see Lake Erie, on the right you get a great view of the park. So then when you crest over the lift, you get another great view. You can see Maverick and Frontier Town and Lake Erie. Then you'll go down your 300-foot 80-degree drop, which is really fun, gives great airtime in the back, really whips you over, lasts a while, like house right next to the road and Lake Erie. Then when you level out, you hit 93 miles per hour and get some great intensity. You'll go to a 169-foot overbank turn, which lasts a while, is really fast, and it's pretty forceful, and is also pretty steep. It's overall a really fun element. It gives a great sensation of speed and some good forces, and it's just huge. It's really cool. So then you'll do a left low to the ground bank turn inside a tunnel, which is pretty fun. Then you'll rise up into a 182-foot tall floater airtime hill, which gives great floater. You don't lose a ton of speed as you go over it, so it's really fun and great sustained airtime. Then you'll dive into a very large right-hand sort of overbanked helix, which is not super forceful, but gives great sensation of speed and lasts a while, and it's just really fun. So then you'll switch left into a left more tight overbank turn, which gets some nice positive forces, then do a right bank turn to a smaller camelback. This one actually gives a bit of sort of ejector, flow ejector airtime, especially if you're in the back. It's just a really, or in any row, it's really good. It's definitely better than the first one because the airtime's stronger. It's a really fun element. So then you will do another left bank turn inside a tunnel low to the ground, which is fun. This is where it takes your picture. So just look out for that. And then you'll do a speed hill, which goes right next to the station. Gives a great pop of ejector and is really cool. And this last section of the ride goes around the queue line, which is actually really cool. So you'll do a left bank turn, then a straight section, and one more final right overbank turn. Get some pretty good forces, and then you will slide into the brake run. So there you have it, the layout for Millennium Force. Alright, so starting off with the categories, we have the intensity, and Millennium Force does pretty good. It's definitely not forceful, like some people say, but most of the ride isn't super intense, but you do get great force through that first and third overbank turn, and even some on the fourth. And leveling out from that drop, you get great positive Gs, and some decent ones on the second turn, but not much. So as you're going through some of the turns, you are getting good forces, especially some of the tighter overbanks. In general, Millennium Force is not super forceful compared to like the other gigas like Fury or probably Orion, especially after a 5. So I'll give it a solid 5 out of 10 for intensity. Alright, so next up we have the airtime category. Millennium Force has its 4 main moments. You have the drop, which gives great floater. You have the first floater hill, which gives nice sustained moment of floater. You have the second hill, which actually gets some decent sustained ejector. And then the final hill, which is a great pop of ejector. So Millennium Force definitely has great airtime. I'd say the first moments are like definitely better than like the floater hills on like B&M, or like the first airtime hill is better than like a B&M hyper camelback, and the drop gives good floater, and then the other hills give really good ejector. So Millennium Force doesn't have a ton of airtime, but the airtime it does have is really solid. So I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 for airtime. Alright, so next up we have one of the strongest parts of Millennium Force, the pacing. Now, Millennium Force goes 93 miles per hour, and I say a good majority of this ride, you're keeping at least 60 or 65. You're definitely flying through a lot of these turns and airtime hills, and you just get a great sensation of speed, and it really just doesn't feel like it loses much of it. It's definitely not the best paced coaster ever, but for what it does have, it is very well paced, and it definitely keeps its speed very well, so it's going to get a very solid 9 out of 10 for the pacing. Alright, so next up is the drop category. Millennium forces a 300-foot drop. It is taken at an 80-degree angle, and this is a really fun drop. It doesn't absolutely fling you out of your seat like ElToro or Skyrush would, but it definitely gives great floater. Now I will mention all of my rides were in the back or middle, so I don't know if this drop is like towards the front, but in those seats the drop was great and give great floater. It's really big, it definitely lasts a while, and it's really steep and it's just really fun. I like how it's right next to Lake Erie and the road. I actually do prefer this to Fury 325's drop, which is an unpopular opinion. It is one of the better drops I've experienced, but it's definitely not my favorite drop, but it's still really fun, so I'll give it a 7 out of 10 for the drop. Alright, so next up is a category I actually forgot to include when I was changing my coaster review categories. I accidentally took it off, but this is the length and duration. Millennium Force actually does amazing at this. It's actually the 7th longest coaster in the world in terms of track length. It has 6,595 feet of track, and the drop to brakes duration is about 1 minute and 5 seconds, so it really feels like a long ride, and I think that has to do with some of the elements are really long lasting and really drawn out. But overall, Millennium is just a super long ride in track length and duration. It definitely does not feel short. It feels like a super long ride. It is the longest ride in the park, or in terms of track length at least. In terms of duration, it's like the second longest, I think. But yeah, Millennium Force is definitely a really long ride, so I'm actually just going to give it a 10 out of 10 for this category. Alright, so next up is the smoothness, and Millennium Force is actually pretty smooth for how old it is. This coaster is actually 20 years old this year. When I rode it, it was 18 years old. But it's overall pretty smooth. It does have a little bit of a rattle when you're going through some of the overbank turns, but that's to be expected from an older Intamin, so it's really not that bad. It's just kind of a slight rattle, and it doesn't really bother me. So it's really not a very rattly ride. It's overall pretty dang smooth. So I'm going to give it a solid 9 out of 10 for the smoothness. Alright, so next up is the theming category. Millennium Force doesn't really have any theming. It does actually give off a pretty cool, like, sort of futuristic vibe, like in the queue line and in the station and stuff. And it does have that awesome soundtrack, but that's not really theming, I would say. It's just more of a cool vibe and atmosphere. It actually used to have a really cool unintentional theme with Dinosaurs Alive, kind of where when you went through the tunnels, you would travel back into the age of the dinosaurs, and when you came out, you would be back in modern day. But now that's gone because Dinosaurs Alive is gone. So, there's not really any theming to this ride. But it does, have that cool atmosphere, so it's at least better than nothing, but there's still really not any theming. So it's going to get a 3 out of 10 for the theming. Alright, so our final category is going to be the setting category. Millennium Force has an amazing setting. The lift hill, drop, and first overbank are right next to Lake Erie, which is awesome. Then you have those 2 airtime hills, which actually go right near the some pathways, so you go right over the pathway, which is really, really cool. And then you have that really cool section which goes over I think it's the island area with those 2 overbanks in between those 2 big camelbacks, which is pretty cool. And I'm pretty sure the camelbacks are on there too. And then you have that final section which wraps around the queue line. So Millennium Force is a great setting. It goes next to water, it goes over the pathways. A lot of the island area flies through trees and whatnot. So Millennium Force really has one of the best settings for any coaster out there. I can't really think of many that have better settings. It's just a really great setting. So we'll be getting an 8 out of 10 for the setting. Alright, so we have come to the end of the review, and for a final score, I'll be giving Millennium Force a very solid 9.2 out of 10. This is just a really, really great coaster. It's one of the most fun coasters I've ever ridden, even though it's not super intense. It's just you get a great sense of speed on the overbank turns, and has some good airtime, an awesome drop, a great setting. The restraints are awesome. It's pretty smooth. It just has an awesome atmosphere too. It's just super iconic. And it was really record-breaking for the time, even if other Gigas definitely are better now and just other rides. For the time, it really was quite an innovative coaster and was really insane for when it opened. But it's overall just a really, really fun coaster. It is my 6th favorite coaster at Cedar Point, behind Raptor, Magnum, Maverick, TTD, and Steve. and it's my number 28 coaster overall. It has dropped in my rankings a bit, but it's still just a really fun ride, and it's definitely one of the better coasters out there. And it's just such a fun ride on the Millennium Force. So that'll be about it for my review of Millennium Force at Cedar Point. What do you guys think about this coaster? Where do you rank it in the park? Where does it rank in your overall personal rankings? Leave those thoughts down in the comment section below, and make sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe for more coaster content coming soon, and I will see you guys later. Bye.